want to study abroad at some point or another. Now imagine you get that awesome opportunity, but once you get over there, you're accused of murdering someone. A pretty horrific thought, right? It would be awful. That is exactly what happened to the 20-year-old college student from Seattle, Washington, named Amanda Knox, known as Foxy Knoxy in the media, when she went to Perugia, Italy in 2007. Naturally, a case about a beautiful woman being murdered by her American roommate would bring about a lot of discussion amongst the public and the media. Add the prosecutor Giuliano Magniti to the case, who's known for his accusations that are pretty outlandish, and you're going to have a big case in the news. If you don't know who Magniti is, he was the prosecutor during the Monster of Florence case in 2001. During this case, there were 8 couples murdered in Lover's Lane in the Tuscan Hills of Florence, Italy. And although there was only 1 gun found during this case, the prosecutor Magniti believes that there were actually 20 murderers, all related into the same satanic sect. He believes that they chopped off these body parts of their victims and used the body parts in a satanic ritual or black ceremony of some sort. As you can tell, these are pretty outrageous accusations that don't necessarily go with the evidence that is given. So once he was added to the Amanda Knox trial in 2007, he came up with some pretty more outlandish, eccentric accusations. One of which was he believed that Amanda Knox and 2 others killed their roommate, Meredith Kirscher, in a satanic ritual orgy. I don't know how he really came up with that, but we'll get to that in a second. I'll begin with the key points of the murder investigation, and then I'll lead into the more current current occurrences involving the recent controversial acquittal of both Amanda Knox and her ex-boyfriend, Rafael Solicito. Rewind to 2007, when most of us in this room were 15 to 17 years old. Amanda Knox and her roommate lived in their Perugia homestead while they were studying abroad, and Meredith Kirscher is found dead, partially clothed, in her room with her throat slit. The BBC News of October 3rd, 2011 states that there were subsequent tests that shows that there was sexual activity that took place before her murder, and that's probably where Magniti gets his idea of there actually being a satanic orgy that took place before her death. The New York Times of 2009 reiterates this idea that there was a satanic activity going on by stating that there was a drug-fueled sex game that went awry before Meredith's death. Shortly after Meredith's body was discovered, they found Amanda Knox's DNA and fingerprints on the murder weapon, which was a kitchen knife that belonged to her ex-boyfriend, Solicito. Then, another suspect was added to the case, Rudy Guede, who was a 20-year-old whose bloody fingerprints were found on the bed pillowcase of Meredith Kirscher. And lastly, Solicito, his fingerprints were found at the scene of the crime on Meredith's bra strap. As you can see, things aren't looking too good for the 3 of these main people. And to make matters worse, the BBC News of 2009 states that Amanda Knox was seen doing cartwheels and laughing hysterically with her ex-boyfriend while waiting for her interviewers to interrogate her. So this lighthearted demeanor doesn't make her seem to be remorseful of the situation, or it doesn't make her seem to look like she acknowledges the severity of the actual case. Eventually, the 2, Knox and Solicito, are accused of murder and sexual violence. Both appeal, and the appeal took place this June, the past summer. And on July 25th, experts said that there was no evidence. The fingerprints that they had found were actually contaminated. They were not dealt with properly, and therefore they couldn't use them in the trial. And once again, and that led to them not being able to keep them as suspects anymore because they didn't have good evidence against them. So finally, their 4 nightmarish years were coming to an end, and the 2 were finally acquitted on October 3rd, 2011, and finally released. The CNN article of October 4th states that through the trial and appeal, the police had no material evidence or plausible witnesses, and therefore had to release the 2. They go on to state that the public's obsession with female evil and their fascination with the possibility of there being a depraved criminal behind this pretty face is what really drove the crime with the media and the public. Ultimately, there's no way of knowing what actually occurred in 2007 on the night of November 1st. It's up to you to make your own assumptions on if you think Amanda Knox is guilty or not.